Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm running a little bit late today. I'm going to make sure I pin this to the top of my page, so just bear with me for ignoring you for a moment. Where am I? Thank you, Donna, for sharing. Good morning, Pam. Sometimes it's so hard. There it is. I can find myself now. Sometimes it's so hard to find yourself, and I'm following my page. We had let me turn down the volume. Good morning. Good morning, Stacy. Hi, Angela. And it's funny because when I watch myself, which has been on from the beginning, it's a whole different feed of comments versus watching the comments. Hi, Adrian. Good morning, Kathy. We had Catholic Schools Week today, so that's why I was a little late. We had a little late. We had an open house this morning I was able to go to. Hi, Julie. Thank you for sharing, Adrian. Appreciate it. Good morning, Jewel. Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Hi, Amy. Nice to see you. Good morning, Wanda. So today, I was in school, so I feel like I'm a little trying to be quiet and subdued. Today, I thought we could make, and we could totally skip from this, but I thought we could make a pop. Hold on, where's my example? Yeah. Oh my gosh, don't tell me I lost it. No, here it is. So Donna sent in something. Hi, Gail. That she asked me if I ever made a pop and fold card. I think it's a pop and twist card. So I made this one. Now, granted, I didn't do anything to the outside of it, but I made this one. So I thought maybe we could make this today. So if we don't want to make this, we can totally go to something different. We could make even like a Valentine's pop and twist, but I actually started this with, where is my other one I had? I had one that I kind of started, and I really only did the inside mechanism so you could see what it looks like. So now that I found you, oh, thanks, Kathy. Good morning, Jean. Nice to see you. So I thought we could do a pop and twist. So if you guys want to do this today, I did find, and I want to show you what I did for the inside of mine. But Donna was nice enough that she sent a tutorial on a person that made a really simple version. So there's not like, the inside doesn't have a lot of, there's another way you can do it where the whole inside is fancy and you have to cut it. It kind of looks like a really skinny t-shirt. And this one that Donna shared with me, and I am embarrassed. I'm going to look, hold on, I'm going to tell you real quick who the person was that made this one. Her thing is Queen Bee Creations. And I don't know what her name is. Ooh. Anne Bernard. I want to give her credit because she had an excellent tutorial. So my tutorial is basically just, I made a new version with Anne's card instructions. So I will post all the instructions. And hers is very simple. Now she said that she's also done it the other way where you have like the full panel on the inside, but this one was really, really easy. And actually I did go back and watch several other demonstrators' videos to see if there was a way to do it that was a little bit simpler, but I will say this is the easiest version to make this card. And actually I've made 3 of them since then, just kind of practicing, because the first one when I did it, I had a hard time with getting the inside base to line up correctly, and it wasn't open. And as you can, if you can see here, when I did this one, I actually didn't line it up as good as I should have. You can see it's not exactly lined up. So I kind of left this one so I could see the mechanism of it. Yes, Colleen is actually in my downline. She did a adorable meerkat one, so I thought that one was really cute. So I made this one. This one was done with all, whoopsie, upside down. This one was done with all of the lily paper. So you can see I even used the stamp set. And here's the other thing. This one I kind of changed it up. So if you see, I have like lovely lipstick and then white in the background. So you could do them so they're all 4 the same, but I kind of thought if I had white sayings with white behind it, it really wouldn't be very exciting to see the layers of it. However, I also did cut for this one, and I'll show you. here it is. I cut a 4x4 panel, and what you'll be able to do is, that way you can put this here on the inside. Was that the right one? Make sure. Yes. And then I had like a teeny little piece left. Hold on, let me pop this together and I'll show you what I mean. So I had a little teeny piece of the DSP left, so you can put this little 4x4 piece, that way you can put your sentiment or whatever you want to add, and then you can kind of add this little extra piece that was trimmed off, so you won't have anything to go to waste. So I thought this was pretty fun. Also, the lady that originally did this one, she had multiple layers, so she had like a layer in foil and then another DSP layer underneath. So if you want to add more layers, however, I kind of thought you're already covering up a lot of the paper anyway, so I really didn't want to add more layers that I was covering up. But she also had a really good point, because if you're going to put this one on top of another layer underneath, you could totally cut a lot of stuff outside that would be, you'd be able to use it for another project. So keep that in mind. So, good morning, Tina. And I saw somebody said they had surgery. Denise, I hope you're feeling better soon. Best wishes for a speedy recovery. Hopefully you're doing okay if you're up and watching videos. Can you craft in bed at least, maybe? Hi, Teresa from Northern Arkansas. Thank you for joining. I mentioned before I have some a lot of Little Rock, Arkansas relatives. So we will do this, but I am going to ask if anyone has a specific theme aside from the lily pad, because I am totally up for doing a theme. I do have a couple cards coming up. I'm actually taking part in 2 blog hops for Kylie Bertucci. I'm in a training group. This is basically helping us learn how to be better demonstrators for our customers and our downlines and potential customers. So I am participating in 2 blog hops next month. One of them is on the, let me look at the date here. One of them is on February 3rd, and then the other one is on the 10th. So there'll be one Monday and then the next Monday. And I think you guys are really going to like the cards I made. I really went outside the box with 2 of these cards I made. I really want to share them with you now, but I can't. I'm trying to keep it suspenseful. And then the other one, I did something I've done before with paper piecing and inlaying paper, and also multiple layers of embossing powder. So I hope you guys like that. I'm like setting up a tease that I hope you're really going to like it. And I used things that don't go together remotely. Like, for example, the bee paper and the stars dies. How would you even put them together? I did. So I hope you like what I did with those. So those are right here. I can't show you though. So you have to stay tuned to my blog. So if you're not already subscribed, subscribe. And then hopefully that will, oh, the Power of Hope. That's a good one. We should do that, Julie. We're going to do that. Okay. Power of Hope bundle. So I got to get that out. So give me 1 second. Let me just grab that real quick. One other thing I wanted to show you, just in case, because I know we don't have the, oh my gosh, which one was it? You know, we had that little pennant flag. So just in case, if you're really not good at flagging your sentiments, oh my gosh, I'm looking at myself. I look like I have dark circles under my eyes. I feel like I didn't sleep very well. So I'm going to show you one little teeny little thing. I'm going to cover this up as much as possible, but I'm going to show you this. This is all I'm going to show you. If you need help flagging, so you see how this is flagged? If you don't like doing it with the scissors, if you feel like maybe you don't do a good job, you can use this little part here in the tailored tag punch. And let me grab a piece of paper and I'll just show you real quick. Oh my gosh, there's got to be a piece of paper around here somewhere. So for example, here's a little piece. And what you do is you just take it and you stick it into the end right there. And I usually kind of hold it so I can find if I have it centered where I want it. Oops. And then you punch it, and then look, it flags the end of your, granted that one's not very even, but such a cool idea. You're so nice. Thank you, Tina. I feel very tired today. Today I woke up and I was like, oh, yes, or a square punch too. I know some people, if you're a newer demonstrator or a newer customer to Stampin' Up, you might not have a lot of the square punches. I have a lot of square punches because I love punches because they're really simple to use. That's the one part I like about them. They're very simple to use. You can just pull one out real quick if you want to do a sentiment. I love dies, but dies require you to have the machine and then you gotta crank it and all this. Punches are so easy. Granted, they are a little bit bigger to store, but these are one of my favorite things to use Oh, Donna, you're so nice. You guys are so kind. I thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. So if you don't have the tailored tag punch, or if you have it and you're kind of like, oh, there's not really, it's a great thing for flagging. So, and I do have the little banner punch too, but I always like to tell people in case they missed out on it, something else that they could use it for. So let me grab, because I had to move that out of the way. So Power of Hope, and let's see if I can find that. Actually used, oh, I think I have it out because I used this the other day. I used this for one of those cards I was telling you about. So this is a bundle that you can get with Celebration. With a $100 purchase, you get the stamp set and the embossing folder. And I really, really hope this embossing folder carries over or becomes available in the catalog, because this is one of the coolest. It's just really, really neat. So the cool part about what we'll do is we will actually use this for our front panel here instead of using DSP. And then maybe we can use, we might be able to use some other side of the Lily DSP. So we're going to do that. That's what we're going to shoot for this morning. I have all of my other little cards from the other week, so I'm trying to stack these all up. Let me put all this stuff together. I have all my measurements out. So the Occasions catalog, this is the new spring mini catalog that's going on right now in case you don't have it. You can also order out of the really big annual catalog as well, in case you didn't know. I am going to be using the trimmer today just to kind of get some things trimmed up. And use my BDSP. So I'm going to keep the B stuff handy just in case, but I'm also going to keep the Lily. So this is also free. Both of these actually are free with a $50 purchase. So if you have a $100 purchase, you could either get the Power of Hope bundle, or you could get the Golden Honey, which is specialty paper. It's got, you can see the foil, or the Lily Impressions. This is really pretty. It's got a lot of nice stuff. It actually coordinates with dies and a stamp set as well. And then the other thing you are going to need for this, and my little thing is falling out, you are going to need a scoreboard of some sort. Now, when the lady whose name I have quickly forgotten, what she did for this, just to kind of give you a heads up, she actually put a mark down the 6-inch line. She did hers, I think, with the chalk pen, but I couldn't find mine, and my white gel pen wasn't cooperating. So I actually just did it with a Sharpie. So what I did was, I have a permanent Sharpie. This doesn't come off of anything because some Sharpie does. And I just made a mark. That way it's not harming anything, but you'll always know where the center is. So if for some reason we used to carry a diagonal scoreboard and we don't have it any longer, but it makes it really easy to line up diagonal pieces if you do this. So all I did was I just took my Sharpie and I just stuck it right in the hole and dragged it down. And that way it marks, so in case you need to line anything up center-wise, lining up 2 points, the black is really helpful. White would be helpful as well, but again, I couldn't find my white, so that's why I went with the black this time. So, one other thing, just to mention in case you don't know, if you are new to me or new to Stampin' Up, right now you can join to be a demonstrator during Celebration. It's a lot of great stuff right now. You get this little mini trimmer, which is really helpful for small sentiments. You get a sample pack of DSP. It's 6x6 DSP. It's got a lot of stuff in it. You get to choose your regular $125 worth of anything, any catalog, clearance rack, whatever it may be, for $99. It ships for free. They send you a free paper pumpkin. Plus, you get to pick one extra stamp set of your choice. It could be any one. It could be the most expensive one. Can't be Celebration. That's the only thing. That doesn't qualify, but if you have any questions, I would love to have you on my team. Have some team members here watching with me today. So let me move a few of these things out of the way. I want to keep my scrap paper, and I want to keep my measurements, and then we will get started. So I'm going to move this out of the way so I have it. I'm going to flip you down. Let me put these couple things away because my luck, I always end up tipping something when I don't want to. So I'm going to put you down to the craft table and we'll get started. So if you get a little nauseated, can you use the score on the trimmer? You know, Kathy, I couldn't find that I could line up the ends as well because of the darkness. I totally understand what you're saying, and I will show you where you could do it. it just makes it a little easier with having the scoring thing. So even if you have like a mini scoring board, might work, but with just the size of this, it makes it a little simpler, but you probably could. I just was going for easy because sometimes when I do things for the first time, for example, something I've done recently and I was really having a hard time making it feel like it would be simple enough, and I'm not saying simple in like a simpleton way, but simple enough that sometimes when something looks complicated, would you try it? Or you're thinking, oh, forget it, that looks entirely too difficult, I'm not going to do it. So what I try to do is I will do something, especially if it's something that's hard, the birds, for example, over and over and over again till I can make it easy enough that anybody would want to try it. Because sometimes I know people, if they look at something, are like, whoa, which probably is why it has taken me 13 or 15 or 20 years to do the pop and fold card. So yes, and the bee paper is great. It has great sides. So you probably could use the trimmer. I'm certain that you could. However, if you have the score, it might be a little bit simpler. But either way, whatever works for you is fine. So I'm going to flip you. So just bear with me a second. And if you get a little nauseated by things moving, you might want to just, whoops, look away for a moment. There we go. Let me just slide over just a little bit so I don't accidentally turn it off. Straighten you down. Oh, I must have put this on the wrong side today because I have my more of my table than I usually see. Okay, so let me just scoot this over so I know we're actually in the field the whole time. So, host code is still active if you have anything you'd like to get. Oh, what did I do? This one's almost empty. Nope, that's the new one. I had my Tombow that I have pretty much done until the bitter end. So just in case, if you are new to this as well, this is a Tipsy. Lisa and her husband John create these. You can find them on Crafters Solutions on Etsy or Facebook. They're really, really cute, very helpful, and they help you to get every little last drop possible out of your Tipsy or your Tombow liquid glue. Losing my marbles. So I'm going to first kind of choose, so I'll just leave this open so you can see this in the meantime. I'm going to choose what colors I'm going to use for this. So I think I'm going to try to use something, I don't want to say like subdued, but something kind of peaceful-ish. So I feel like, what if we do Pretty Peacock? Ooh, you know, is that going to be in this pack of paper though? Pretty Peacock and Terracotta Tile. Yeah, we might be able to pull the Grapefruit Grove, potentially. I'm just trying to look at our paper choices here, because I know one of them, we could do Terracotta and Grapefruit. That might be translatable. A couple of these, the nice thing about this paper is it does have double sides, so this might be close enough to the Terracotta. So let's take a lookie. We'll do this one. I think we're going to use, if we're going to use a paper, we're going to use this. And then we can always use that side of it because it's really pretty. But we're also going to focus on the stamp set, Power of Hope, and then the little die there, or the embossing folder. Losing my mind. All right, so let me grab. So for your, here's the thing, you have a couple choices. You can make it so it all looks the same. So on this one, you can see I picked, the base was Lovely Lipstick, and then I went with Old Olive. You can make it so it's all the same, so it's very seamless. You can pick a couple contrasting colors. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do the base in Pretty Peacock, and then I'm just going to pick a different color for the mechanism part. So we'll do the base of Pretty Peacock, and really like Terracotta. I think these colors look really pretty. I'm going to do Terracotta. What the heck? And then Terracotta. So I think we can still always go a little bit lighter with the Grapefruit, and it's still going to look good. So what you're going to need to get started with this, and I'm just going to do just a little disclaimer here, just in case. This is live on Facebook. I have only made 3 of these other cards. So if you're watching this right now in the beginning and it's on the replay somewhere on YouTube or Facebook, just check the measurements in case I have misspoke and measured something incorrectly, okay? But we're going to cut this in half. So this is a full sheet of cardstock. So we're cutting this in half to 4 1/4 by 11. So I'm going to go ahead and score this at 5 1/2. This is going to be our base. All right, so there's our base card. So you could do 2. Now when you do your other piece, this is going to be strips, okay? So we're going to cut 2 strips of 2.5. So at this point, you're kind of running, you can't really make 2 of these out of one sheet for the inside part, okay? So I cut this at 5, and then I'm just going to cut it in half at 2.5. Okay, and then this one is going to be, one of them is going to be to 8, and one of them is going to be to 10. So you need one piece that measures 2.5 by 8. Okay, so there's that one. And you could save this, you'll probably use it for something. And then one piece that's going to be 2.5 by 10. You are going to need a couple other pieces to layer. So while we're at it, I'm just going to go ahead and get a couple of them cut. So let's go with, for the front, I'm going to do thick Whisper White. You probably could use either, but since I have it, I'm just going to use thick Whisper White, and we'll use that for our inside pieces as well. So I'm going to cut one of these till 4, and this will be for the front of our card. This will be the piece we're going to run through the embossing folder. So we're going to trim it to 4 by 5.25. Okay. Now we're also going to need a few pieces to layer here. So these little white pieces, whether or not we're going to do 4, I don't really know, but we'll see. I'm also going to cut a piece that's going to be for the inside of the card so we can write on it. So this one is going to be 4 by 4. So this one was already trimmed to 4. So 4 by 4, that's for the inside. And then we're going to need 4 pieces, potentially, because if we end up adding some with DSP, then we could always fill 2 out, but we're going to need something to put our little whatever on the front here. So those are going to measure 2 by 2, so 2 inches by 2 inches square. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut a few of those. So this probably is a card that is a little bit heavier on the paper, so you can eliminate some parts of it if you'd like. Just kind of depends on what you want to do. So I'm just trimming this down. So that's 9, 7, 5, and 3. And that way we'll have 4 pieces that are going to be for the inside. I'll keep this in case we decide we want to punch something out on the front. And then I have another strip we could do for the front as well. The only other thing we're going to need, so our piece on the inside for this one is going to be the terracotta. So we could choose to add in the peacock, but I think I want to do something that's a little bit lighter. So maybe we'll go with a nice, I'm wondering what would look good with those. So we have this, almost like a granite might be okay, but that might be a little bit too subdued. Does anybody have another? We could do basic gray. That would be nice. But we'll do basic gray, unless anybody else has a different choice. But I think basic gray would kind of make it pop. So I'm going to grab just a piece of basic gray. I don't think I have any scraps, so I have to grab a full sheet of basic gray. Put this over here for now. And same thing for this one. Now we're going to cut this at 2 1/4, and then we'll need 4 pieces that measure 2 1/4. So that's just going to be for our other layer. So I'm probably not going to be doing as good mathy wise. So let's see, we have 11, so that'll be 9. All right, I'm going to measure these. Sometimes when I do the backwards measuring, I end up goofing up. So if we go to a half, so it's 8 1/2. 6 1/2 would be 2 1/4. Let's see if this measures. Oh, look at that. She did it. So 6 1/2, so 4 1/2, 4 1/4. And then 4, and then we're going to take it down to 2. So hopefully, let's see if I've done this and they all match up. Okay, so you're going to need 4 pieces of a contrasting color, if you want to use that, you don't have to, that are going to measure 2 1/4 square, and then the pieces that we cut out, the white is going to just layer on top of it. So these will be 2 inches square. So they're going to lay just like that together, okay? I think that's it for now. We may end up cutting some other stuff eventually, but so I'm going to just get out the scoreboard, so the Simply Scored, to do the scoring for this. So you know we already did this one in half, so this one we scored at 5 1/2. And where I get the pockets for my cardstock, I absolutely will, Adrian. I get them on Amazon. I will tell you, they have changed, not sources, but they've kind of changed a little bit, so they may not be the exact same ones, but I will absolutely let you know if I find it on there again. So we'll put this basic gray out of the way. So we have 2 pieces, okay? So we have our 8-inch piece and we have our 10-inch piece. So we're going to work with our 10-inch piece first. So this is 2 1/4 by 10. So we're going to score this at 2 1/2. Let me use the fat end. 5 and 7 1/2. Whoop. 2, 5, and 7 1/2. And we're just going to fold these. So we have like a M. Okay, so that's going to be 1. Now this one you're going to score on the short side. So on the 2 1/2-inch side, we're going to score it in half at 1 1/4. All right. Then we're going to put it onto the 8-inch side, and we're going to make just a little mark. So it doesn't have to be big. So you could use your little tip if you wanted to. You could use your bone folder if you can't find your stylus. But you're going to just make a little mark at 2 3/4 and 5 1/4. Okay, and then same thing again. 2 3/4, 5 1/4. Okay, so it's just, you probably can just barely see it, but there's a mark here and here. So to go back to, I apologize, I cannot remember whoever asked, if you were to use your trimmer at this point, you can. You're going to have to line this point and this point up. So you certainly could. You want to make sure that you have, as you all know, the scoring is usually on the bottom here, and the cutting is on the top. But I got so used to the way the other trimmer was, I actually just popped mine out and switched them. So just make sure that you don't have your cutting blade, because you're going to cut your paper in half and then you'll be like, darn it, now I got to start all over again. So you certainly could line up your point and your point, just like that. I probably should have brought my glasses. And then you would just score, okay? But I'm going to do it with this one so you can see. So you could use that. Just make sure you make a deeper score line. So same thing again, I'm just getting the bigger end of my stylus. So I'm lining up, there's one score line here and one score line down here. Just make sure you have them lined up before you do it. And then you're going to just score straight down and then just do the opposite. So you're going to line up, your score line is here and here and here. Same thing, and just score. Okay, so that's it. That's probably one of the harder parts, is just making sure that you do it and you don't goof it up, that you feel like you didn't goof it up. So now we're going to just fold this in half. You do want to make sure that you reinforce all of your scores with a bone folder. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for this. And make sure when you do it that you look and make sure that they are lined up square, because if not, it's going to make your card a little goofy. So I'm just reinforcing those. So there's that one. So this one we did in half, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold this one this way. Okay? And then same thing. And then you're going to just fold it this way. Okay? So you have that. And then you're going to take your folds and you're going to squeeze them. It kind of looks like you're making a pair of pants. Like you have legs with a really short mini skirt on. All right, so there you go. So that is probably the hardest part. Okay, so now we do kind of have to decide. I do have to get my trimmer out. So this little piece here is just the smidgy-widge off. So I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up, because if it is a little bit off, it kind of will make your mechanism look a little strange underneath. You probably could still trim it, because I did end up trimming it for this one. When I lined it up wrong, I just cut the piece out from underneath. But you want to do your very best to get it to line up properly so you don't have that problem. So it's always worth it to just double check, because this is going to be folded and unfolded and folded and unfolded, because everybody's going to say, look at this amazing card that Rachel made me. So make sure that you have your, that's much better. I can already tell right there, it's just lined up a little bit better. Okay, so just make sure you reinforce your score lines. All right, and then that's it. So this is probably the hardest part. So again, we're going to do this. And this is one other thing where we're going to go ahead and cut our piece, okay? Because we are going to need to put our DSP, whatever we're going to decorate it with, on the bottom. So let me just grab my trimmer one more time, and I'm going to just use a piece of the flip side of this. So I'm just going to cut this to 4 by 5 1/4. Oh, look at that. I should have done it the other way. Oh, Blondie. Blondie strikes again with her scoring. Let's see. Do I have another piece of that? I probably used all that cardstock now, so now I don't have any more. Let me see if there's a piece in this pack here. Silly, silly girl. Nope, that one's bright. Well, let me take a look. I think there might be one more sheet in here. If not, I might have to open up my other package. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to just trim this one down. And if they don't really match up exactly, it's okay. Because it's just kind of going for the hue. Actually, I'm going to flip it so it's on a little bit on the lighter side. So I'm just trimming this to 4. And this will be for the top and the bottom portion by 5 1/4. Okay. So I would suggest you use whichever is better for you. However, when you have your liquid glue, you are able to kind of have a little bit of wiggle room. So if you kind of don't like the way it is, you goof it up. You can wiggle it. So I always liked the liquid glue, but now I really, really like it. So I'm just laying that piece down. Now remember, this piece is going to show. So if you were laying another piece down and then say you were going to put like this on top of it, you can absolutely cut something out of this bottom layer. But if you're only doing one, you don't want to, because you will see it. So, oh, Colleen, she's casing your meerkat. It's kind of funny when Colleen posted her picture the other day of her meerkat card. I said, Colleen, you must have read my mind. I was making that card for my live. All right, so this one, we're just laying these on. This is for the inside. Now, granted, we are going to need something for the front, but we're going to do the embossed folder for that one, okay? That's why I didn't do that. So what you're going to do now, and this is probably, again, one of the more complicated things, which really isn't that complicated, is you want to measure, where's my pencil, so you know the halfway point. So this is 4 1/4. So 2 1/8. You're just going to make a little pencil line, okay? Which I don't even know if you can see that right there. But what you're doing is you're making that line so you know exactly where to put this piece, because this is where the mechanism is going to go, okay? One thing I will suggest is you want to make sure that you get this up close to the edge, because when I made this version, I didn't originally put it as close to the fold, and it doesn't work quite as well. I will also tell you that you really do need a very strong adhesive. So if you don't mind waiting a minute, you could do liquid glue. However, I'm going to do double. I'm going to put a little bit of tear and tape, and then I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue on top of it, just so I have the room to be able to wiggle. I think when I made this the other day, when I did my sample, I did use Fast Fuse, which was fine, but I still added a little bit of liquid glue to it just to make sure it held really well. So I'm just putting this on both sides. So if you still happen to have any of that red back tape, that would work really well. Fast Fuse did hold really well. Just FYI, it definitely held well. Tear and tape will be fine. You could absolutely just use liquid glue if you wanted to, but just remember you're going to have to hold it. So that's a little bit more than I needed. All right, we'll just put this back on here for now. Like that. So I'm just going to press these down. Make sure they stick. And I have my cap off of this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit. And I do like doing them both kind of at the same time. That way, if you feel like you need to adjust it a little bit, you can. So I'm taking all of my release paper off. And then I'll put glue on both sides because I feel like that way, in case when you close it and you're like, oh, it's not lined up, you have the ability to be able to move it. So I'm just going to put a little liquid glue on each of these pieces, which kind of doubles up the strength of them. A little bit there. All right. Now I'm going to, looking at that little spot there, so I know that is the center, I'm going to put this all the way up to the end. Kind of making sure it looks like it's remotely straight. I'm going to close this because it should at least pick it up then and make sure that it opens. And now will be the point where you're like, oh, that's just a little teeny bit off. Because you do want it to open, so if you needed to, adjust it a little bit. See how you can kind of move it so you see that it's straight. And then fold it again and, whoopsie, close. Push down. Now, I'm not going to lie. It might take you 1 or 2 times to feel like you got this right. Which, if you're doing it your very first time and you really have time and patience, maybe just use liquid glue. That way you have the ability to be able to kind of wiggle it around, okay? So there you go. You can see both at this point, in case you were goofed something up and you wanted to cover it, you could make that your front, but there you go. Pretty simple. Now, the other thing you're going to do for this, now this is not a big enough ruler for this one, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to mark, just like you did the other one, you're going to want to mark at the top the 4-inch piece. That way you know exactly where to put this piece in. So it's going to line up just like that. Okay, so pretty simple so far, right? Just you have your little flipping part there. Okay, from here on, I promise you, this is the hardest part, was this. It's pretty easy from here. So you're going to, you have your upside down M. You're going to close this here. And you're going to line this up here. I feel like it still looks just a little bit crooked, but I think at this point it might be, yeah, it's together. It's going to be the way it is. So what you're going to do is you're taking the center of your point and you're kind of lining it up right there and just making sure that it all feels even. And then same thing with this. So this is where I could have used that little extra piece of tear and tape. So you're going to put some adhesive here on the bottom. And if you want it to pop the opposite way, because you could, it's up to you, you could put it here and here, but it has to be opposite, okay? So we're going to put a little bit here. Same thing, this card is going to get opened a lot, so you do want to make sure that this is a very strong hold so it doesn't fall apart. But I am going to still put the liquid glue on because, as my grandfather would say when we used to play cards together, insurance. He would always keep extra cards when we played rummy for insurance, he said. All right, so I have all my release paper off, and I'm going to just put just this little piece here. I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue just to kind of get to the edge there. So I'm kind of just making a square. It's going to be a little bit bigger than that when it sticks, but just for purposes so you guys can see where it is, okay? So we have our, again, already have our center piece there, so we're going to line this up, making sure it's even on both sides, and then we're going to just open the flap, same thing again, just make sure it feels like it's all square when you're pressing, so you have opposite ends. So if you wanted to open it the other way, you would put the glue on these two, but it has to be on opposite. And then watch. Boom. That easy. Simple. Look complicated. Promise you, it is not. So definitely give it a really good press. Even though you did put that liquid glue on there, want to make sure that that tear and tape picks up. Make sure it's all nicely lined up. So if you had anything that was accidentally hanging over, you could trim it off there. But also remember, if you do, it is going to be covered up because we're going to be layering all those pieces on. So really, you're not going to see anything horrible. But pretty simple, just with that. So let me take this piece. This is the piece that we wanted to do with our embossing. And then we will go with the rest of our card. So from there, pretty simple, wouldn't you say? I would say probably the hardest part was what we did with the mechanism and whatnot, which is probably what freaks people out, and it's probably why I didn't do it. So I'm going to grab my scrap paper. Let me move this over. And I'm going to spray this. Now, this is some old spray that I made up a while ago. So we can always do something different to it. So I have all these. This is another product by Crafter Solution. I have all these little things that I've kind of made up. This one has copper shimmer paint in it. So if it ever looks like it's getting a little dry, you could always add some alcohol to it. This one, I just put a green reinker in, and I think this had some shimmer paint in it. This one was probably terracotta, but you can always dump these out and just do a different one. This one is the only one I ever had that was clear. This one was kind of like a gray. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add another drop of reinker to this, and a little bit more alcohol, and maybe a teeny bit more shimmer paint. So we're just going to add to this one, and we're going to make it just a teeny bit darker. So this is just a spritzer bottle. They come 2 in a pack. I have just some regular rubbing alcohol here. So for reinker wise, I don't want it to be too dark, so I'm going to do smoky slate, and I just have to grab my shimmer paint, and hopefully I can remember which of these little drawers I put it in. This is also something that's going to come back again next year, in case you didn't get this. I made the Christmas countdown box into, let me move this out of the way so you guys can see this a little better. I made this into an embellishment holder, and I also put my shimmer paints in here. So I'm going to just pull that one out. That will come back again next holiday catalog, but it's going to be a little bit different. So in case you missed it, it's really cool for adding your, keeping your embellishments or little things that maybe you don't have space and you don't want to keep them in those little rounds. So I'm just shaking up. This is the Champagne Mist Shimmer Paint. Just giving it a nice shake to mix. And I'm going to drop one drop in. Not too shabby, but not a whole lot, because it goes a long, whoops, that was more than I wanted. It does go a long way. I should probably wipe that off. So it seals better. I really, really, really hope that they never get rid of these shimmer paints, at least 2 of them, because I think these are some of the coolest things. I never knew about these before, and it's not, I think this is the same people, yeah, that make Stays On and Memento and all that stuff. They make some really cool products. So now I'm going to take my ink refill, and I'm just going to drop in, we'll do 2 drops. 2 drops. So that one was Smoky Slate. And then we're going to take our alcohol, and this is just leftover rubbing alcohol, and I'm going to fill this up. Sorry, it's almost at the bottom of the bottle. Between this and the coffee that's probably on my desk, I'm sure some people right now are gasping. Now, you don't want to fill it all the way. So I left about 1/4 inch of room, because when you put the top in, it could very well overflow if you have it too full. So you don't want to go too full. Hopefully I didn't go too full. There we go. So when you have it nice and tightly sealed, and make sure that you wait. Let me move these couple things out of the way. Then you're just going to give it a really good shake. Mix all the stuff together. So you're mixing the reinker, the alcohol, and the shimmer paint. Okay? What is down? Oh, it's still got that shimmer paint on the side. All right, so I'm going to give this a spray just to clear out the old of what was in there. All right, and then one other thing I'm going to grab before I spray this. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray our paper and then put it in here. But I have to grab, and I did order this, and I will say I think this is one of the best things I bought. This is the blue plate. So somebody was talking about it the other day, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like the blue plate special. So you need to have the blue plate special if you were to go to a diner, right? It's like one of the best things there. So this, you need your regular platform. It could be the original platform. It could be the one that opens all the way, a blue plate, and your folder when you're using the 3D folders. And that's it, okay? So what I'm going to do is move this other stuff out of the way. I'm going to spritz my paper. I'm going to put it inside the folder, run it through. And when you do spritz it, what it does is it gives you a really nice extra deep crease to your embossing folder, okay? So it doesn't have to be soaking wet, but That's probably a little more than I need, but. So then you're going to take your thing. Your paper is going to curl a little. That's okay. Going to take this in, and you can see the color is pretty light. There's really not a whole lot of color, even with that reinker that we added. Crank this through the Big Shot. I want to tell you, when you do crank it, it does still feel like the first time where you're kind of like, I don't know if this is going to go or not, but it does. And then when you open it, when the paper is a little bit wet, it gives you a super, super deep crease. And then also because we added that shimmer paint, I don't think it's looking on there, but it is really, really sparkly. It's kind of like using the shimmery white cardstock. But I kind of like this too because you can make anything shimmery. So it doesn't even have to be shimmery white. So again, this was Thick Whisper White. It does take a moment or so for it to dry. And then with this, all I'll do is just put this on the side and then I could use it again if I want to. So this is going to go onto the front of our card. I am going to just hit this real quick with the heat tool just to dry it, because it's going to stick to your card base much better if it's actually dry. And the nice part is you could use either side. So you could use the embossed or the debossed side. So either one. Now, if you wanted to use the other side, obviously the only thing you're going to want to do is make sure you spray this side. That way you'll have the debossed part sticking up, but still very cool. So we'll put that on the front. So I'm still not 100% sure what we're going to do with this yet. So let's get to the rest of the card first. Where's my other pieces? Here they are. Let's get to the rest of the card first. And that way we know exactly what we're going to do with the front before we add anything to it. Okay. So we're going to set that here. So we have our 4 pieces left and our stamp set. Now this one we can do, let me grab my, scrap paper back because I know all these aren't going to fit on here. So we could do these in a way where we have just a piece of the images on there. We could do it where we have, you know, the whole image. So we could do like the tree on one. We're going to do a couple of the little lights. We will do part of the pagoda and a sentiment. Let's see. How about hope is the power that makes all things possible? We're going to use that on one of our pieces. And then maybe we could do the today is a new day, a day for new beginnings on the front with a tree or something. We'll have to see how that goes. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of kind of trying to keep it slightly in the same thing. So I'm going to keep with, let's see, grapefruit. And what is a little bit lighter than this? We don't really have anything that's too much lighter. And I just don't want this to be too dark. Let's try this. Hopefully it'll go okay. I'm going to fill in the trees. I'm kind of trying to stick with like the tone on tone thing, if that makes sense. So I'm going to color in the trees. Stamp them off so they're a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to color in the trunk with the grapefruit groove. And I know that's probably not your like normal color of a tree, but okay. I'm going to huff and then stamp. That's not so bad. I kind of wanted it to be lighter, so that's good. So then I'm going to do Grapefruit Grove and Stamped Off Pretty Peacock. We'll just do 2. So we'll do, since this one is, and where is my chamois? I'm going to do Peacock, but I'm going to stamp it off first. Might have got my spacing a little off there. That's okay. Which color would I do in between? Let's see, this is pretty stamped off. Maybe that'll be really light. I'm going to just go with that because I'm afraid if I make it too dark. We'll do that. To bring in the basic gray, I'm going to just take my Stampin' Right marker and move these over. I'm going to just draw a line to kind of follow this. It's not really like a straight line. I'm kind of trying to go with what I thought it would be. That's giving me a little creative license. Kind of make peaks. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blender pen, hopefully I have one that's clean, and I'm going to take my, I'm going to do it with the darker one. I'm going to go with the terracotta. You can do this with the marker or with the ink pad, and I'm just going to take a little bit of ink and just add a little bit of shading. Just a little. Okay, so there's that one. And just cleaning off my marker. I'm going to do the same with the peacock, and since we stamped these off, it will be a little bit darker. Kind of want, you know, so it kind of gives you like the look of like you're looking through a lantern. And since that one in the back there is so light, I'm not going to re-ink before I do that one. There we go. So hopefully that looks okay-ish. Now for the pagoda, I'm going to stick with that in, I'm going to do the pagoda in terracotta, and then I'm going to do the words in peacock. That way it kind of stays with the same theme, okay? But I'm going to stamp this off first because this terracotta tile is pretty dark. So I'm going to stamp this off and just kind of stamp this to the side. All right, there's that. And pretty peacock. We'll do our words. Teeny bit crooked, but it's fine. All right, so now all we have to do is stick these onto here. Now you could stick your bases on here first and then line these up if you feel like you're going to do a better job. It's really kind of up to whatever you want to do, but I'm just going to put some liquid glue on all 4 of these basic gray panels. And just put these on. Trying to, yeah, that's a little crooked, but that's okay. Make sure my fingers are clean so I don't smudge anything. If you wanted to bring in a little bit of the peacock, you could do the same thing here. I feel like it needs a little peacock. So I'm just going to do the same thing with my blender pen. Let me put this on here real quick before the glue dries. And just bring in and kind of fade it out. See if you're starting dark and then going really, really light. Okay. Do the same thing again for the bottom one. You can even bring in a little bit of basic gray if you wanted to, but I think it looks kind of neat. All right, so there's that. You want to make sure when you use your blender pen that you're really careful every time to just make sure that it completely goes clean before you cap it, because the longer you have it on there, the harder it is to get the ink out. But it just takes a little bit of work to get those little smudges out. They will run clean eventually. Okay, so there's that. So then you kind of have to decide, how do you want this to be when you're laying it down? Do you want your sentiment in any specific order? I think that looks kind of nice like that. Okay, then we also still have our little piece that will go down here. Oh, and I might have trimmed this a little bit too big. I think this needs to be 3 3/4. Yep, so this is going to be 3 3/4. So again, I figured I would make something, I'd goof something up. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of each of these. And then we just have to figure out something for the front. And fix up our little square here for the inside. So there's one. Two. Oops. Making sure that's for the most part lined press it down, okay? So, oops. Okay, so this piece is going to go on the front. The other thing you could have done too, just thinking of this ahead of time, before you ran this through, you could have even stamped like the pagoda on the bottom and then run it through the embossing folder. The only thing is with your spraying, you have to be careful because sometimes the alcohol will make it bleed a little bit, but it would look very like watercolory. So that would look kind of cool. And then this piece, I just want to trim down just a little smidgy. I'm just going to pull this out real quick. I'm going to trim this down to 3 3/4 square. So I should have done that ahead of time. And I was thinking incorrectly. So that should fit on here nicely. Perfect. And I'm going to grab, I know I have a little piece here, just to kind of tie it in. Let's see. I'm going to take, what is this one, measure 4? I'm just going to take a 1/4 inch little strip, cut that off, and cut this down to 3 3/4. And then this is going to lay right on the bottom here. And you could do a contrasting piece if you wanted to. Like you could do something different if you don't want it to be matchy-matchy. So you could also do a piece of the cardstock if you wanted to. But I'm going to put this on here. Obviously, you're going to want to write your sentiment on here. Write whatever you write before you add it. Only because you want to make sure that you can write smoothly, because sometimes with these cards, the way they open, they're not really as flat as you want. And one other thing to note, you probably want to erase that little pencil mark that I made, which mine is upside down. So it just goes to show you that this was the top and I ended up doing it upside down, which is fine. But make sure that you pay attention, because you wouldn't want to put your front on here and then your card, or your front over here, and then your card is upside down. Okay, so keep an eye on that. So let me just erase this little pencil mark real quick. Goofing things up. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of liquid glue. I think I'm going to go with this side up instead of it being the same with the grapefruit. Okay, there's that. I'm going to just kind of put this kind of down near the bottom. You could put it right at the bottom if you wanted to, but I think sometimes that little space looks kind of neat. And just in case you need to, you could flip the other side and see you need to trim it, but it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to put some glue here. Again, this piece ends up measuring 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. So 3 3/4 square, not 4 inches. And I'm just going to lay this here. Again, I would definitely already write your sentiment, which kind of makes it nice that you have this little extra piece, because you can put your sentiment if you're deciding who you're going to give it to after the fact. So you could save this until you actually decided to put your card together. So we have one more thing. I wanted to add this to the front. And how about we'll do today is a day for new beginnings. And I'm going to do that, I think, still in peacock. But I just don't know what I want to do it on. Could do it on a punch. We could do it on that one label punch. I don't really know how that would look. I think I'm going to just do it on a thin strip. That way it looks kind of like just a little piece that we added to the card. So this just happens to be an extra square that I cut. Let's see. I want to do that or gray. I'm going to go with gray. That way it'll be almost like a little bit subdued. So I'm going to go with basic gray. Sorry, I change my mind so many times sometimes. I'm talking myself through what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that it inks nicely. All right, no, I did a good job there. Okay, I'm going to take this one more time. I'm going to give this a second just to make sure it's dry. And while I do that, I'm going to grab my tailored tag punch. So I'll flag the end so you guys can see what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to just trim this out. Okay, and then I'm going to take the end of this and I'm going to just, there's a little smudge there, feed it right in here. Kind of make sure I'm centered for the most part. You can kind of grip it to close it. That way you can see if you need to adjust it anyway. There you go. So there's that. So kind of easy way to flag. All right. and let's see. So this is going to be here. I feel like this needs a little something, so I'm going to just go around it as I usually do. I'm going to use the terracotta tile marker just to kind of follow the tip. Just like that. Kind of make it stand out just a little bit. I would love to add a little bit of ribbon, but I feel like if I do, it's going to be too much. But let me just try this one little piece because this is pretty nice. This might work out. This is that braided linen trim. I don't know how it is going to look, so we'll have to see. I'm kind of just separating the braid just a little bit so the end will be kind of frayed slightly. All right, and let's see. So if we did it like this, and like this, and then maybe we had this little piece sticking out from under it, what would that look like? I think it needs a little bit more. That may be kind of nice. And what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to wrap this around the back and pop this up on a dimensional. All right, so let me grab white dimensionals because I did learn one time when I put white on white and then I used black dimensionals, it looked like I had a dirty spot. So be mindful of what dimensionals you may or may not use, only because sometimes it makes it look like you used a dirty piece of cardstock. So I'm going to put some fast fuse here just to bring this piece around. Okay. And then you could continue with fast fuse, but I will tell you, when you have deep grooves like this, you kind of want to use more than anything liquid glue because it's really going to get into the grooves and help your piece to stay layered flat. All right, so let's bring this around. Hopefully this isn't too long. I'm going to just lay this onto the front like so. Probably could use a teeny bit of liquid glue, and I'm going to try to see where this is, like right here. I'm just going to use a real little bit. I mean, that is like a really, really little bit because I want this to kind of open up a little bit. So I'm going to kind of press down and then open the braid some, if that makes sense. Especially the end, I want it open. And if you have trouble with your fingers or arthritis or anything, you could absolutely just put a piece on there or skip the ribbon altogether. And then I'm going to put this here. So you have that little piece that's kind of peeking through. And then this, the dimensionals will also kind of hold it down. So I want to just open this just a smidge. That way I can press. And then open this up. Okay, so there we go. I think that looks pretty cool. That's also a really nice, just simple card, just like that. I might have to case myself for this one and just make a simple card with just this layer without all the inside to it. But then you have this nice part on the inside. Again, you could add a little bit of a different piece here. You could skip this piece. You could add a piece of basic gray if you thought that it's kind of too much with the contrast. I think my piece is just a teeny bit crooked, so make sure you keep your eye on that when you do it. But otherwise, if you had something really long, you could also add another panel up here. Or you could also add something to the back if you wanted to. But I think this card turned out really, really pretty. And I think I am touching this dirty stamp up here. So I don't want to get that all pink up there. Let me move this out of the way. So whomever it was who gave the idea for the Power of Hope bundle, great idea. So thank you so much for suggesting that. That's probably not one I would have thought of, but I think it looks... I outdid myself. Thank you. I appreciate it, Donna. Hey, Donna, thank you for the card inspiration. Donna is the one that suggested we do the pop and fold card. So I think this turned out amazing, honestly. And I think the nice part is this stamp set has just enough stamps that you could add anything to it. You could even add the geisha on the inside if you wanted to. You could add her in one of these places here if you wanted to kind of have a little bit. Apparently, one other thing, if you have longer cardstock, so if you went to a 12 by 12, I think you can actually add more panels. Now, I don't know what the size would measure of what they would be, but I know people have said that they add more. And actually, I saw somebody else on a totally different channel. It was not a Stampin' Up channel. I can't remember what her name was. May. She did one where it was a snowman, and and this part was the snowman opening his hands, and he had gloves, which was a really cool idea. But I think this is a nice, very simple card, and I definitely think when we finish here, I'm gonna make this card just as this, and just do that with like a simple. This is a really, you know, not a lot of not really difficult, but a lot of impact, especially for the front of that, is really very pretty. But I love these colors together. So terracotta tile. Ugh, there I go again, touching that piece up there. I need to move this stamp before I ruin it. So Grapefruit Grove, terracotta tile, pretty peacock, and then we added in basic gray. I think that's a really nice color combination, and probably one that you wouldn't have really necessarily thought of straight away. So that's pretty cool. So I thank you all for joining me today. I'm sorry I was a little bit late, but I think it was worth it considering. I'm really happy that I only had one little oopsie with the measurement of this on the inside. Everything else I think I did great with the scoring ahead of time, which sometimes I don't do so well with that. But thank you guys very much. If you have any products you would like to purchase, I would love for you to shop my online store. I truly appreciate all of your support. Thank you guys for just coming and sharing and liking and commenting, because that is a huge way of supporting me as well. As well as if you are watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for leaving your comments. If you like this, you could give me a thumbs up. You can leave a comment. You could share this with your friends via email or a link. So many ways to do it. Also, if you have any questions about this, you can always send me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com. I will post all the measurements for this card once I get the blog post written up. And thank you again. I believe her name was Debbie, but I could be mistaken, to Debbie for in Queen Bee Creations for sharing this tutorial with me in the first place. I thought that was really awesome. So many cool things you can find on the internet, right? When you're just looking. And this is a very simple pop and twist card. Twist and pop, twist and shout, pop and lock. I don't even know. Twist and I can't remember what it is that it's called. But thank you. I don't usually do a PDF, Kathy, but on my blog, there are typically full written instructions on measurements. So that's kind of I say like a cheat way for the PDF. But this is all the instructions and measurements and whatnot will be on there eventually. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I will try to pop back maybe tomorrow, but it probably will be on YouTube because Friday we're going to Ice World. We're going ice skating. So that's the end of Catholic Schools Week. We're going to go ice skating. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I'll see if I can send you maybe a video on here from us ice skating. And yes, I do ice skate. I won't say I'm not superb, but I'm pretty good. But actually, a little bit of trivia. Ice World is where Kimmy Meisner, who was an Olympian, she actually practiced there. So pretty cool. We'll get to skate on the same ice that an Olympian skated on. So that's pretty neat. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you again real soon.